I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. This is part 2 of our conversation with Dave Silton from Mobile Assault Platoon 3.
And then I think for me, it really got kicked off. I want to say it was like April 2nd. Again, we were the rear vehicle, and we had an air officer with us.
Okay.
And I don't remember who the gunner was. I think it might have been Gordon. So in my truck, I was the rear vehicle. I was driving. Rapaza was the vehicle commander.
Okay.
We had, I want to say it was Gordon, but the thing is like we would try to rotate because we didn't have enough. We had more drivers and gunners than we did trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to rotate to get people rest, who needed it. Or in like some cases, like Neil, at one point, we just didn't let him drive anymore because he was just so bad. Again, I had my fair share of bad driver mistakes, but so April 2nd, we got hit with an IED, and I got knocked unconscious. I think I got a little bit of shrapnel in like my neck. And the air officer, do you remember that James Bond movie where the Asian guy had his face was like all diamonds?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because something exploded in his face.
Yeah.
That's what this air officer looked like. Like his shrapnel, and thank God the eye, like, was it Wiley X's?
Yeah, the Wiley X's. Yeah. That was what we were all issued.
Yeah. So, and they were like, hey, these things are going to save your life. And I was like, yeah, okay, sunglasses are going to save my life. But it did. It stopped the shrapnel from going in his eyes. I remember his face got peppered. A huge piece of shrapnel hit. I think we had a Mark. It was a Mark 19 box because the ammo cans are much bigger on the Mark 19. And the shrapnel hit the ammo can and knocked the driver went unconscious. I want to say, I think it was Gordon, but I can not 100%. But I got knocked unconscious. And I remember when we came to a stop, and we came to a stop because we ran into the vehicle in front of us, I jumped out and just started shooting. And I couldn't hear anything. And I'm shooting because people are running, and, I'm like, that's guy, like, I'm screaming. And then all of a sudden, like, I think it was Munez grabs me and pushes me in the truck. And I'm like, no, we got to go. And he's like, no, we are going to go, because the truck was still drivable, because we would do that like inchworm, or we'd spread out and get tight and not stay in a straight line, because they can time you if you stay in a straight line. I'm like, okay. So again, anything that I thought was going to keep me alive, I really paid attention to and tried to do. And I'm like, hey, if we're going to get blown up, if I go like that. So luckily, I know I was speeding up to catch up, and that's how it exploded behind us. And, behind us-ish. But, the Humvee got pickled with shrapnel and stuff, and the air officer, but everyone was alive, but got in the vehicle. I think we went back to Junction City. Junction City was where they had like the big
that was
place, right?
Yeah, that was Charlie Med.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we went there, and I know the air officer got checked out. I got checked out. And again, I remember being completely fucking loopy, because the way I got knocked out, I don't know. It really scrambled my brain, and I was just like completely out of it, because it sounded like people talking like from Charlie Brown for like days.
Yeah.
like wah 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 wah, and I was just like, what? Like not knowing, just kind of out of it. And I literally remember Lashard was like, you stay with them for the next 3 days. And again, like knowing what we know now about concussions and TBIs and all that stuff, that definitely was not the best plan because we kept going out on missions because
Uh-huh.
like I was good to go and I felt good to go, but they were like, okay, you're not driving now. You're just gonna stay with them, like just follow them. I'm like, okay, like sounds good, but I know I was still not like I wasn't okay, you
Yeah.
know.
Uh-huh.
So, and then I think I don't know. It was April 6th was when everything really
Yep.
really kicked off, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
I think we were QRF.
That was my understanding. You guys were day QRF, so you were first out the gate.
Yeah. So Gulf was it Gulf that got hit?
Yeah, Gulf had a platoon surrounded in the south of the city. Their QRF was on their way to get there, and they got pinned down by a different ambush. And so you guys went to go reinforce them in the south, near-ish to Easy Street.
So that was the first like, and I think this is the 6th. What happened on the 6th, but I'm not 100% sure. But the first like where we were actually completely opened up. We were driving down the street, and again, it could be on the 6th where we headed to them, but there was one of the roads. We're going along the road, and it had this kind of like road that like wide off, and there was again a lot of the city had these like 7-8 foot walls that were like
Mhm.
lined almost blocks,
Mhm.
and our platoon was kind of almost in half, where like half of it was past the wall and half of us weren't past it, and we were staring down the street, and there was this like machine gun team right on the street, and I don't remember who called it out, but all of a sudden every machine gun turned left, and I remember the 50 cal punching through the wall and the guy just disappearing. Like, and I don't mean like he ran away. I mean he was a mist. Like he
Yeah.
was done. But I also remember a bunch of guys shooting at this vegetable fruit stand that I didn't see anybody at, but just made fruit salad. Like, and I was like, why the fuck did you do that? And I don't know if it's like they just, well, I couldn't shoot that guy and I wanted to shoot something. I don't remember. That echoes in my mind. And I don't remember if that was before, after, or on the way, but that was the first time I just remember all the guns just opening up. And then getting, I think, was it Easy Street that we were on?
Yeah.
And everything got a little discombobulated there because that's where we started receiving like heavy fire. I know a bunch, and again, so as a driver, I'm staying, with the truck. I'm, helping, make sure the machine gunner is covered as well, and like we're just shooting everywhere. But the first engagement, I want to say, was me and Latham like run out in the middle. Again, terrible tactics. So I don't know what made us do it, but we run in front of the trucks and we're facing down the street, and Latham get some, like just again, and we're shooting down the road, and then we're stopping, and I just hear like these, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And he's like, they're shooting at us, and we finally go get cover, and I was like, what the fuck? Why did we do that? And he was like, I don't know. Let's not do that again. And I was just like, holy shit. That like, just, like, I don't know, like as a young man, you just kind of feel invincible, and until you don't. And that was the moment I was just like, okay, like, thank God they can't shoot for shit.
Yeah.
Because
it's called the battle fever, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just fucking stupid. And so, I remember a bunch, Mackenzie, Condi, I think Cox, maybe Latham. They like took off, and trucks were supposed to go with them, but they didn't. And I don't remember why. And again, like, there was definitely some, I mean, I thought radio communication was fucking terrible. Like, so trying to figure out what was going on was basically kind of like a consensus thing. Like, oh, they're all going that way. Okay, we're all going to go this way type of thing. And then, you know, a bunch of shit was going on. And I then remember there was this one house that we finally figured out, like, we were getting a lot of fire from. And I think it was Gunny Crutcher. I think Gunny Crutcher was our platoon commander.
Yep.
And he was like, Silton, you know, take the gate. And I was like, cool. So I, you know, drove the Humvee into the gate as hard as I could. And I remember there was this like bluish, like a Mercedes, or like, it was a nice fucking car that I destroyed driving into the gate. And, you know, and then pulled out. We go in, and we were calling for Cox because Cox had the breacher kit. And they're like, where's Cox? And they're like, I don't know where he is. And I was like, Lathan, you ready to go? And he goes, yep. All right, let's go. And because they had this, like, it's not a porch, but like this maybe like 4 feet deep by like 8 feet kind of cut out in the building where the door was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I just and it was a solid wood door, and I just got a running start and threw myself into the door and just broke the door off the hinges going down. And thank God Latham was Johnny on the spot coming right over my ass, because there was a guy right there with an AK ready to shoot, and Latham got him, and we entered the house. And, you know, I remember having one guy, and remember that, like, that muzzle thump they taught us to, like, right on the sternum. Again, this is the first time doing that, and just watching the guy drop, and I was like, damn, that works. Like, you know, because you never did it to anyone. So like, you know, it's searching the house. And I remember all the women in one room, and they are completely freaking out. And we kept searching. We found a huge cache, like under a floor, like under a couch or a floor in one room. So we found a big cache. But at some point, and I think it was after that, the Army showed up. And I think they had, because we were there to get the wounded out, but received such heavy contact, we couldn't get out.
Right.
So that's when they sent, I want to say it was 113s and Bradleys, but I'm not positive. It was definitely 113s. I don't know if it was Bradleys too. Probably not.
To my memory, it was just 113s. But that doesn't mean anything. I'm going by what you guys told me and a couple of pictures that I've seen.
Yeah, so I remember them showing up, and I was like, "Fucking thank God," because I think the 113s just had 50 cals on top. But unfortunately, when the Army showed up, the very first truck, their gunner got hit. And they finished rolling up, and then I want to say he was like a first sergeant or something got out, and he was like, had the biggest like Southern accent, and he was like, "Oh, I love you motherfucking Marines. You guys are crazy." And, you know, and we're all like, "Yeah, okay." And then a bunch of the Army guys get out, and they're right up against the 113, and the 113 has reactive armor. So guys were shooting RPGs and all kinds of shit. And if it hits that and you're standing next to it, it's going to explode. And the first sergeant started yelling, "You fucking dummies, get the fuck away from the truck. You can get yourself killed," to his guys. And we're just like, Jesus Christ. But I remember we loaded up the injured, and I think somehow, like, Staff Sergeant Rapazzo ended up like with them somehow, and we lost him. And I think it was him and somebody else ended up in the 113s, and when they left. I think we got a little bit of ammo from them, and then kept pushing. And then I want to say Vigil. I think Vigil jumped in. And when we were driving someplace else, there was another ambush that was set up, and thank God we drove right through it, because I definitely don't think we had enough ammo. And again, Connie was hurt, but again, I say he was hurt. He wasn't out of the fight, because the doc tried to put him out of the fight, but he just wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
He was like, just pass me up and I'll go. And Condi was not a super athletic individual. And I say that because whenever I remember doing PT runs when we were in Oki, it wasn't natural for him. It didn't, like, when someone goes runs, you're like, oh yeah, he can run. Condi, it looked like work to do it. You know what I mean?
That's funny. Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't natural.
Right.
And so he would he just had that face like, I'm just doing it. Like he had just like that, like, I'm pushing through it face. And he did that when he ran. And because he's like, because he would always give me shit because I hated running. He was like, I don't like running either. I'm not good at this stuff. I just push. I'm like, okay. My brain does not work like that. So, but it was the same thing when after he was shot, he got patched up, and I'm like, are you good? And he's like, I'm good. And just like, he would have that just push through face, and again, it wasn't his normal face. So like when he was working, you could mentally, you could just tell. It was like how some people, just, you can read them like a book. Condi was that guy to me. Like I could read him. Like you knew when he was in a good mood. I knew if I was going to go talk to him, like, ooh, not a good time. He was that guy that you could. And again, he just, at that time he was just pushing through, and just, it was really, everyone in our platoon had a ton of respect for him already, but to take a hit like that, where it rips a huge chunk of flesh off your shoulder, and after, now being an old man and already having 3 shoulder surgeries myself, I understand the damage that can be done there, and the rotator cuff and all the muscles in there. So I understand how your body works, and thinking back at that now, like, how the fuck did he do it? Because, he tore through part of his rotator cuff, part of his lat. So how the hell did he have the strength to continue doing that? He just said, all I had to do was hold on to my pistol grip, and my right arm did the work. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess, but, and I don't know why, but it just seems like that only was like 45 minutes. Like, it didn't seem like a very long time.
Yeah,
I know that's not true.
As I say, the time dilation is always very interesting in that sometimes moments feel like forever, right? You can like see everything. Time has stood still. You can take everything in. But at the opposite, you guys were out there 5 or 6 hours. And that's what everybody says. Everybody's like, it felt like 30, 40 minutes. It's like, well, yeah, but you also went belly up on all your ammo. Like that's, you were definitely out there 5 or 6 hours.
And I mean, the thing that was amazing was just how everyone just fought, like just did their jobs. Like our machine gunners were the only machine gunner that worked as a machine gunner that wasn't a machine gunner was Brown.
Yep.
And but they all did a fucking amazing job. You know, Kelly, I specifically remember Kelly because he had the Mark 19 and he was a fucking sniper with it. Just like I want to say it was on the 6th, but it could have been on the 7th. I remember him hitting a guy, jumping over a wall, and blowing the guy in half. And his spine was what was keeping him from not falling off the wall. He was like draped on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being like, holy fuck. Like, and he was just so precise with that. And again, and Pepper was fantastic and Gordon was great. They all did a fantastic job. And if they weren't Johnny on the spot whenever we were in that position, we would have been fucked. You know, or if we had lesser firepower. And again, every truck we had a Mark 19 or a 50 cal.
Yep.
So everything was a heavy gun for us. We didn't have I don't even think we had a 240 as an option.
No.
I think we had a couple saws, not very many. That was one thing I remember being very jealous of the Army because they had these little saws.
Yeah, the parasaws with the folding stock. Yeah.
I was like, that is the coolest fucking. Why can't we get any of that? You know, or even like some of the sights they had for like the 50 cal, because you know, I mean, not for the 50 cal, but for the Mark 19.
Mm-hmm.
I remember what some of the ODA guys showed up with a Mark 19. I was like, what the fuck is on your Mark 19? He's like, oh, this is the sight. So I just kind of can look here, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And again, none of our guys had that. So
Nope.
all of our guys mostly were firing by feel.
Yep.
And I don't just mean MAP 3. I mean our company was firing off of just feel. So to be that accurate and to do so well with that is just amazing to me. You know? And again, and not wasting 50 rounds trying to get on target. You know what I mean? The only time that was at night, whenever we had like a night mission and trying to walk them on to the target. Like that was the only time where they weren't like right on because they couldn't even see, because the night scope that they put on the 50 was fucking terrible.
That wasn't
even good.
The Vietnam era Starlight scope. Yeah.
That was from Vietnam era.
Yeah.
It was awful. And I remember, I think Pepper had a 50, and I remember him like, this thing won't stop rattling. And it's just like trying to look through it, and it's all over the place. And like, but again, at the time, like you'd never seen anything. So it was like, oh, this is cool. You know, like, oh, the MVGs are cool, even though they were fucking dog shit.
They were awful.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I guess so. The 6 was 5-6 hours, like, and I remember getting back, and everyone was just so excited. There was so much energy, you know, from going through that. So that was good to see. That was a good feeling, you know. And I want to say like that whole week was a lot of fighting, but there was no bitching, there was no moaning, there was no, you know, there's no taking a second to, like, other than the incident with that one individual, everyone else just performed, you know, just did their job.
Yep.
Even the guys that you thought were going to fold. And that's the thing that always amazed me is like some of the guys that you thought were going to be like fucking G.I. Joe, like they look like the dude. And then they go to do the job and they're like, okay, they're not that impressive. And then the guy you have very little faith in just does his job, you know? So Oh, Daniels. That was another driver. Did I say Daniels?
No, but I forgot about Daniels. Yeah.
But Daniels was this. I mean, again, I'm a big guy, so a lot of these guys seem very little to me. But like Daniels was this skinny, kind of nerdy kid wearing the BCs, you know. But he did. I mean, they all guys you just wouldn't expect to rise to the occasion. They did,
Mm-hmm.
and they performed admirably and did a great job. I want to say Daniels was Gunny Crutch's driver.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Daniels was the only one with a confirmed kill with the Humvee, right?
Actually, so I remember hearing that, but I don't. I think I got one too. So,
well, so his was actually like called in as a confirmed kill casualty, like a real confirmed.
Okay.
Not
so.
Plenty of people run people over.
Yeah,
that was not that unusual.
But his was confirmed.
His was confirmed because they called it into battalion for positive ID, which was hilarious.
And because one of the games we had on the Xbox, and which he was always playing, was Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, nice.
So running people over and doing that shit was so funny because he played that game all the time. So we were like, you got to do that shit for real.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but like, and unfortunately, I think because of April 2nd, my brain being, I don't think I ever really totally like, my brain never really got to reset or heal.
Oh no,
so
for sure not.
Because I know I got multiple concussions during that deployment.
Sure.
And I think because that first one, they just like kind of compiled. So my memory goes kind of foggy in some instances. It's, you know, some of the podcast is jog stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. You know, so I know we had a bunch of like bug hunts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, was there anything else about the 6th, 7th, or 10th? Like
nothing specific that stands out to me. You guys had, so I mean, kind of the 6th was closer to Easy Street. The 7th, at least from the map and the after actions reports and the stuff you guys told me, you were closer to the soccer stadium on that day, and you actually had the XO with you on that day. Again, I don't know if any of that stands out for any reason. Yeah, and that, I mean, we can kind of move forward off of April if there's anything else that doesn't stand out to you. But the bug hunt, I don't remember what Map 3 did for April 10th, which was the first big bug hunt, but I imagine either you were part of the Eastern Cordon or you were pushing behind the line companies, because most of the actual action was with the line companies. All of us on the cordon end up getting in firefights, but they're much smaller. There's a lot less.
Yeah, nothing complete stands out. I do remember doing something around the soccer field, and with the line, when the line companies were out there as well. And I remember if the soccer field was, because the way I remember it, if this is the soccer field, one road really ran along it, but another one kind of came at an angle on it. And we were on the back side where the angle was. And I remember a car coming up, and there was a bunch of people that were they weren't dead, but they were riddled with bullets. And there was a guy trying to drive them to the hospital. And again, this is where, like what I was saying, where my brain was at when we first went over, there was hearts and minds. I constantly felt like an ebb and flow of how I wanted to be very compassionate, but then, you know, now I'm straight warrior, you know, put everything down type, like it. And I remember us loading up this car, and the guy wouldn't drive. And I was like, go. And he's pointing because at the end of the street is a line company. And they're on top of the 7-ton, they had like a 240 Golf.
Yep.
And we didn't have any communication with them, which still, I don't understand how we functioned in a lot of the cases because we had so little communication. But I was like, in my brain, I was like, listen, this Marine that's on a 240 Golf and all those guys see us putting all these people in a car. And they see us tell him to drive towards them. There's no way he's going to shoot at them. And the car was riddled with bullets, and he stops after like literally like 10, 15 feet and gets out to go grab water. That's literally just a huge jug of water. Again, when I say water, I mean brown. Like it's gross.
Yeah.
To go pour in the radiator. And the fucking kid on the other end of the street shot him.
Yep.
And I was just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, we just put people in a car. None of them had a fucking gun. None of them had anything. And you shot him. He was carrying water. So, I don't know, like, and I just like, I was like, what? I just felt like, because we had very specific rules of engagement. And again, when we first went over there, they were real, like, I was like, wait a minute, you want me to wait until they fire a bullet at me before I can shoot back? Like, I remember that was like the very beginning. Like, they need to, well, and I was
if I remember correctly, it wasn't even just they fired at you. You had it like they were even like, well, don't shoot if they're like shooting over your head to be like annoying. Like, they have to be shooting at, like, they need to be trying to hurt you. Then you can shoot back.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
The lawyers that we met the JAG guys that we met in Kuwait were, it didn't make any sense. But yeah, that's the easiest way to put it. Didn't make any sense.
And I remember it like kind of changing. And at one point, I remember them just saying like, listen, if you get engaged, you engage them. Don't shoot people that don't have guns. And it's like, again, to me, it was like, yeah, no shit. I'm not going to shoot someone that's just existing, like women, children, like, and again, I know there was several of women and children that ended up getting hurt and stuff like that. And, but that situation was just one of those things. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, you're shooting at someone who's unarmed, not doing anything. And they just drove, like, what do you think? We're sending an ID, a vehicle ID at you guys? Like, we're right here. We checked the car. Like, it just blew my mind. That's something that stood out to me. And I was just boggled. And that was the other thing that stood out to me, because I never really looked at bullet wounds because I remember Doc looking at them, and someone was like, no, Doc, don't waste your time. And I got all pissed off. I'm like, dude, they're still fucking humans. Like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, Doc, check them out. Can they get in the fucking, can they make it? You know? And seeing the bullet wounds from M16s, like, they looked like paper cuts. They weren't like, they don't, like, if you think about bullet holes, like, and that was the first time I consciously can really remember seeing what our rounds did. And it barely looked like an injury, but there's blood coming out of them, you know? So that was just something that always stood out in my mind. And it was really boggled. I was like, wow, there's people out here that completely look at this thing completely different.
Yeah. There was a different mission, and I don't remember if you guys were out for it or not. I know we were, and this was later. This was late July. And that was where the rules of engagement started. Rules of engagement basically evolved over the course of the deployment. But that late July engagement, that was when we got the call over the battalion TAC that any military age male was a target. And I remember being like, I don't know if I'm just, I mean, dude, they don't think they know that, right? And that might just be this, he's just digging in his guard. Like, you have no idea what he's doing. He's working on his car. Like, he has no idea of what's going on. He still has to live his life. It seems, I don't know that I'm going to go house to house and just start killing anybody who's over the age of 17.
Yeah, I remember struggling with that when I do remember when that came out, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that.
I mean, if they're
You
out
know?
and they're taking pictures of us, or like at least like I can kind of like that makes sense. But
Yeah,
just dudes walking down the street or sitting on their front porch, probably not going to shoot them.
yeah. And the thing is because we also knew that they were stashing weapons in different buildings.
Mhm.
So if they were running from one building to another, and again, I remember someone like one of the commanders like, if they're running from one building to another, just because they think you're not going to shoot them because they're not carrying a weapon, but they're going to go pick up a weapon over there. And I was like, yes, sir. Like, but they don't have a gun. Like,
Yeah.
it was just, I don't know. Mentally, I know I kind of always since that language class and talking with that guy, I just constantly had this ebb and flow in my brain about compassion. Compassion's out the door. Now it's time to work.
Sure.
Type of thing. So, but yeah, I remember I probably on the April 10th. It was like we were probably like cleaning up the back. I just remember there was a lot of because I want to say there was Army out there as
There was.
well.
Oh, it was everybody.
Everybody was out there.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't know if it was later on, but we definitely had air support on one time.
April 10th was the first day that I distinctly remember Cobra flying overhead and firing.
So I remember them firing at a target that we were engaging. Then that was on April 10th. And I remember them flying over and us getting so fucking excited that we finally had like air to help us.
Yeah.
And it was just like, fuck yeah, like being so excited that they were there. It's like, okay, like, because I remember they weren't going to fire artillery into the city.
Nope.
Because of civilians.
Yep.
81s couldn't fire, mortars for the same friggin' reason.
Yep.
So it was like, well, what kind of support do we have? And I remember, I think it was Sergeant Williams or something. He was on the 6th. He was so pissed because they were trying to get air to come out then and they couldn't or wouldn't.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone was kind of like bullshit, like, what the fuck, dude?
Yep.
So, yeah. So that's kind of what I remembered during that time. I remember us doing something with the lionesses, and I was so perplexed because some of them rode in our trucks, and we were helping them load up, and they were struggling with loading. One of them had a saw. The rest had like 16s with like 203s and stuff, and they were struggling getting like geared up. And I was like, this is who you are sending out with us? And because I remember later reading in like the Marine Corps Times or the Army Times or one of those publications saying how amazing it was. And it was like, I don't know how amazing it is, because I remember them saying that, these are the best from their units. And I was like, these are some sad ass units, because this is not very impressive right now. And, good on them for wanting to come out. And I know they helped, because I want to say like because we couldn't search women.
Yeah.
And I remember them getting some intel that, women were carrying things and stuff like that. And because we can't search them, or we were being respectful of their culture by not searching them, they were hiding stuff. So that's why they started coming out. And on one of was it the bug hunt that they were a part of, or was it another one?
I believe they were there on the 10th. Yeah, that makes the most sense to me.
The 10th was a long day, right? Because
it was all day.
Okay, so
it started before sunup and lasted till after sundown. It was all day.
Okay.
16 hours, long day.
Yeah, so it must have been towards the end of the day, and when they were, I think they were on a rooftop with Latham and stuff, and all of a sudden, like, it was kind of weird because like we were getting pot shots from somewhere, but it wasn't like it didn't feel like a full engagement. And I just remember the rooftop just going ape shit, like shooting rounds. And I want to say like Cox was kind of down that way. And he was like, it might have been Cox or could have been Lachard that was like hiding behind a tree because the rounds were all going in that direction. And I don't remember all the rounds being terribly accurate in the right direction. So yeah, because I definitely remember we definitely got, I think they dropped, not flares in the sky.
Oh yeah, they hung loom. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I remember them being loom.
Mhm.
I remember that being,
That was meant to be a show of force, which that never made sense to me either. I remember that they'd fire loom in the middle of the day. You're like,
no sense.
it just looks
Because
like
it wasn't nighttime.
right. Yeah, it just looks like a little parachute, a little fire.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think Echo Company was like across this swampy area. Well, the fastest route to them was going across this swampy area that there was kind of a road in between.
Mm.
And I went, we're like, hey, we're pushing this way. And the road was not wide enough. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. The road wasn't wide enough. And I kind of in the mud and got stuck. So we didn't make it over to Echo Company, I think. So
Nice.
I remember getting stuck pretty good. And that was the first time I realized that our high back armor that they made wasn't that much armor because rounds were going through the motherfucker. And I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
This is just to make you feel good. Hopefully it's a deflection.
Yep. Yeah. It was supposed to ward off some of the rocks that got kicked up by the IEDs, I think. It was not necessarily to stop all the bullets.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then trying to think, I don't know, what are there any other big?
Well, let's see. I'll kick some dates around and see what comes to mind for you. Rest of April was a little quieter. There was a Easter Sunday memorial service, and again, I don't think map 1, 2, or 3 went to that. I think the only one that went to that was Rainmaker, if I remember correctly. This wasn't us, but it was near enough to us that we heard about it. On April 28th was Abu Ghraib, when that chick was kind of messing with the prisoners, and then they did the mass release of prisoners, and we were like, "Oh, great! Now it's gonna become fun again." And that was accurate, right? So May 1st was Operation Treasure Island, when those 2 swimmers from Fox Company drowned.
I was so pissed at that because I was like, why didn't they use a fucking Zodiac?
That's what we all said. Yeah.
We fucking had them, and someone was like, well, we don't want them to know. I'm like, bro, we got fucking tanks and helicopters. You're telling me, like, don't even use a Zodiac. Use a fucking wooden rowboat. I don't give a fuck. But there were so many better options. And the thing was, so lucky for me, I'm a very social individual, and I knew tons of Gulf Company, Echo Company, Fox.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew all these guys, and I now the life of me, I can't remember his name, but one of the guys that drowned, I was so angry because I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, you don't have to swim. Use a fucking boat. It's not that hard. And that, again, I was just so pissed off at that. But on top of that, then the 3 days looking for them.
Yep.
I didn't sleep for 72 hours. I was hallucinating, like so fucking bad, and almost crashing probably a half a dozen times because falling asleep while driving.
Yep.
And I remember, I was always pretty good about, not smoking when in a truck, while we're driving and stuff like that, because, light discipline, the cherry, like, I remember they can see the cherry and you're going to light yourself up. And was like, okay, don't smoke. So I dipped, but I remember during that time, everyone was smoking and dipping while smoking, like just to try to stay awake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those long ass days.
Yeah.
It was just, but again, like I felt very driven to just, we got to find him. Like, what if he's alive? What if they have him? They can't do what they did in Fallujah. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all those, I just, and then, again, I want to say there's plenty of when, talk later, we're like, why didn't they bring in the swimmers earlier? Or
Yeah.
why didn't they drain the river sooner? Because I want to say, like, where they swam across, one of them, like they said, it was like almost like a tornado underwater, kind of pulled him down
Yep.
and back
Mm-hmm.
and got stuck under like a tree or something.
Under something. Yeah. I don't remember what, but yeah, they basically found him 10 feet from where he went across. Yeah. It got sucked straight down. Yeah.
And again, those guys weren't wearing anything. They were wearing a bandolier, an M16, and camis.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't wearing like flax or anything like that to try to swim across that. But I remember just being so pissed at that. I was like, that is just so dumb. That didn't need to happen.
Yeah. And then moving forward, let's see. Savage was killed on May 12th. And then we had the engineers that were, you guys actually weren't a part of this, but the engineers were killed. And then later that day was the highback that got hit from Echo Company. That was the first, I don't know if that was the first VBID, but that was the first largest casualties from a VBID where quite a few, basically the whole highback was combat ineffective and 4 were dead right there and all that. Moving into June, some things that maybe you remember, maybe you won't, but that was when General Mattis was around. He kind of came to Hurricane Point, drove their LAVs through Ramadi.
I remember their LAVs getting hit, and I think we did a couple escorts with him or some higher ups. I remember we did a couple of those just because we got to go to Blue Diamond because Blue Diamond is where most of
that was 1st Marine Division headquarters. That's why it was called Blue Diamond. Yeah, that was the big Saddam's big palace.
Yeah, so I remember going there for some chow sometimes.
We were doing a lot of escort missions at that time because if you remember, we were supposed to hand power over to the Iraqi police and the Iraqi ICDC on July 1st. And so there was a ton of extra missions of us higher ups coming out trying to talk with the higher ups of the on the Iraqi side during June, and then that's when the governor got kidnapped and the mayor. Anyways, and there's a bunch of weird stuff that happened in June, and then obviously that was grossly under. It was not effective handing off the power.
And
and I remember them doing some training. I want to say inside Fox Company. What was that, Snake Pit?
Yes.
Yeah, Snake Pit.
They were training the police or training like who they were going to turn over to.
Correct.
And I remember going over there and watching, and I'm like, oh my, these guys can't do they can't do anything. Like it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, this is who's going to take
one of my favorite things is one of my favorite things that I ever remember that you just brought up is we were at the police station one time and they were going to, and I don't remember why, but they were doing exercises and they were trying to get these guys to do jumping jacks together.
Yes.
And they not only could they not do, like, none of them were coordinated enough to do an actual real jumping jack, but they were so out of sync. Like it was, it almost looked like they were doing it on purpose. It was so intense. It was like watching it. It was like asking a 4-year-old to do, like, get 6 4-year-olds in a group and be like, in sync, I want you to do jumping jacks. And then trying to watch that was, I think American 4-year-olds would be able to do.
It was bad. Yeah. I 100% remember, because I want to say the other thing we went over to Snake Pit was because they actually had a range.
They did that.
Snake
Yeah, that
Pit.
is short range to BZO. Like if you got some people's weapons broke or whatever, or your sights got damaged, you would have to get a new weapon, and you'd have to go over there to BZO.
Because I remember, like, maybe a part of the deployment, they started giving out ACOGs.
Yep.
And I remember I got one and had to go over there, and I remember watching that, and I was just like, "Oh my God, okay." Like, if we're gonna be in Ramadi forever, like this is who we're gonna have to turn it over to. We're never gonna get to leave.
Yep. I mean, that's accurate. we were there a long time.
Yeah. So I was just like, "You've got to be." That was just bad, really, really bad.
Yeah, and then things kind of shifted. We had you may or may not remember this, but we had a gas shell attack where there was a couple of gas shells that hit Hurricane Point. They ended up being CS gas, but nobody knew. Right? It was gas.
Were those the rockets that hit the Conex boxes?
That was later, but these were CS filled mortars that hit. One hit right next to Sledgehammer's hooch, and then one hit the palace. Actually, hit the palace and sprayed a bunch of gas. Anyway, it wasn't that big a deal. But if you were around, everybody was very scared. Everybody had to go get their gas masks. We all got reissued. We all had mop suits, but like they're hidden wherever underneath your bed. Nobody's carrying them.
Yeah.
And had to go remember where our stuff was.
And then we had to wear a gas mask for a while.
Yeah. I definitely remember getting mortared to the point where I felt kind of numb to it. Like it just really didn't bother me anymore.
Yep.
Because it was like, the roof on our hut is not thick enough to stop something from coming through. And if it hits, it hits. Like there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. Because we had that smoke pit that was right in front of, between map 3 and map 2. There was that smoke pit right there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then we had the smoke pit in back. And I remember one time, I want to say it was at nighttime, we had a mortar that literally hit right outside our hooch near my, like, where my bed rack was, wall. It hit outside. And I remember, and it was one of those, like, there was multiple impacting mortars, and everyone got up, and because the way the hooches were, the bathrooms were their own enclosed area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they, put on flax and Kevlars and ran in there. And I kind of got woken up and I was like, oh, fuck it. And I just like pulled the covers back over my head. Like I was like, I'm sleeping. Like, I don't know what.
Yep.
I didn't even get up. And it was more just, I think I just felt very numb to it. Cause I remember there was other times that there was out in the smoke pit and they're hitting, and I want to say it was you. Like you and I were sitting there and they were hitting, and somebody else like got underneath lower in the smoke pit. And we just kind of sat there like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna fucking hit, dude. We're fucked. Like, what does it matter? So it was just, I got just very numb to it. Just like, it was like, it didn't affect you anymore, which it's really fucked about what you can get used to.
Yeah. Someone did a couple different people have done tallies of when there was incoming, and then there were official accounts, and it was, as best we can count, it was like basically every other day or every third day we were getting hit by incoming. And so you just give up. Like, you're just like, all right, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter when it's that many and we're not stopping it or slowing it down. Okay.
And the fucked up part is more than one. I want to say more than once. I remember using the telephones that we had and being on the phone with my wife, and she was like, because every time like incoming, like, didn't they cut off the telephones?
They were supposed to. Yeah, it didn't always happen, but they were supposed to.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, she was like, what was that? I'm like, nothing, babe. I gotta run. I'll talk to you soon. Love you, bye. Like, because I didn't want like. I didn't want the last thing for her to hear was a mortar coming through the roof of the telephone thing, and her hearing me get blown the fuck up. Like, I just as soon as I started hearing it, I was like, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, you just got numb to that kind of stuff. It was crazy.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.